Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back. The mid-morning talk with me, Julie Alli. My first guest is, of course, Zareef Minty. I did indicate that he is an attorney, entrepreneur, TV host, and author, just to mention a few of his achievements. He's a young man. He's very dynamic, and I can't even wait to begin to hear what his future plans are all about. But more importantly, Alhamdulillah, he is here to motivate young people, all the young people in our lives, all the young people in our community, to talk to them about leadership and to talk to them about the hand of Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your life. It's fine and well for us to go out there and, really be movers and shakers, but let's not forget what grounds us. What grounds us as human beings, and very especially in this day and age, with all of the fitna going on around us. How do we keep our young people grounded? How do we keep them in the fold of Islam? How do we explain to them and inculcate the love of Quran and Deen in them? Zareef Minty, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for having me, Aunt Julie.
An absolute pleasure, I must say. I'm so taken aback by all of the amazing achievements that you have already been able to garner at this stage in your life. You've got your whole life ahead of you. And I guess the all important question is, of course, we know you're a naturally intelligent go getter. But what was the driving force in your life? Because you can get people growing up, and then you get people that are absolutely outstanding, like yourself. Then you get your middle of the roaders, guys that just kind of, skim along, and just enough is okay for them. And sadly, you also go, you get those guys that are really lost. They don't seem to have a compass, they don't have grounding, they don't have stability. What do you believe was the right thing that happened in your life? Obviously, very obviously, congratulations, mabruk to your parents for raising such a grounded young man. But what else do you believe, you can attribute to your successes?
Sakala so much for that and those kind words in particular. But I just want to touch off by saying, I feel like we're all still learning in this whole, phase of life. And I think it's always going to be that journey. We always can learn from each other and develop from each other. And that's the most important thing when it comes to improving yourself. But just looking at, what really assisted me in having the correct mindset. And I think it is definitely more of a mindset thing than anything else. Having amazing parents that do support you, who believe in you and create that sense of confidence in you is very, very important. But I think another very important factor was mentorship. Now, I've been privileged enough to be able to find mentors that are like-minded, people who are, very high impact individuals. And you'd find these mentors, and a lot of them are extremely successful, and the one thing I picked up from all of these mentors is that, and this is what I think also helped me to build myself, was that all of them might be driving the most expensive cars, they have these huge houses, but their most important way on how they value themselves is on the impact that they have on other people. So for them, they're not really interested in the cars, they're not interested in the houses, they're interested in, how many people can I feed this week, how many houses can I build, um, and just seeing that among all of my mentors has made such a huge difference in the way that I look at my mindset. So I think, it's all about getting the right mentorship behind you. So whether, you're a young person wanting to enter any industry, for example, I think it does play such an important role. But I also want to just take it back one more second and just say that, it's all great being on social media, building yourself up, having all of these achievements. But at the end of the day, we have to understand where it all comes from, right? And it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's where everything comes from. So it's all great for us to hold these achievements to us, but it's all from the will of Allah. And I think that's so important to emphasize as well.
Alhamdulillah. Now, you've been very fortunate. I know that at this point in your life, you've already authored a book. I think you've authored two books, am I right?
Yes, that's correct.
And undoubtedly, there will be a third one in the pipeline because you're in a very, very interesting phase or a very interesting journey in your life right now, being a TV host, because that is a totally different ball game as well. And as you rightly say, there's a lot of learning. Every day is a learning curve. As I sit here in front of you talking with you this morning, also realize at my age, the learning never ever stops. And you have to be, even at my age, you have to be grounded and you have to have purpose. Because if you have purpose, it gives meaning to your life. And when you have meaning in your life, then you start doing wonderful things. You touch people in a special way. Alhamdulillah for that. And you're absolutely right. Nothing happens without the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have been very blessed. You've had amazing mentors. As we speak now, I understand it might even be more, that you have over 22,000 followers on Instagram, where you share daily motivational content and entrepreneurship tips to help the youth. Talk to us a little bit about that, because you could have talked about anything else under the sun, but you've chosen to share motivational content. Why is that?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So I think just touching on myself as an individual, I'm a huge advocate for youth development. It's something that I really emphasize on a lot. I look at South African young people and I look at us, compared to other countries around the world. I mean, Alhamdulillah, I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot and I've seen, young people from other countries like Canada, people in the US, people in Dubai. Our young people are incredible. They're incredible. They're really smart. They have the right kind of ideas when it comes to creating new products, innovation, creativity. But unfortunately, in South Africa, the support isn't as where it should be. So you look at countries like the Netherlands, for example, they might not perhaps have the best products or the best services, but the foundation that they create for their entrepreneurs allows them to thrive and become extremely successful. Now, we look at South Africa, that's not the case. So we need to be able to create that mindset for our young people. And I always emphasize the mindset because, looking at my mentors, looking at all the people that you look at in South Africa that are successful, but also around the world, there's a certain blueprint that exists, and that blueprint involves having the right mindset. So if you don't understand how to be able to become successful, it's very difficult to do that. So I think also just working on young people in particular, I feel like we can actually end up getting the next Elon Musk coming from South Africa. We can have so many
Absolutely.
other individuals just succeeding in South Africa and building incredible things, but we need to develop them. We need to be able to allow them to be able to grow into what they need to become. So for me to use my platform to be able to motivate them, I think it's such an important thing because I've learned so many lessons in my life so far, and it would be silly for me to keep all of those lessons within instead of sharing it with other people so that they can learn from my mistakes instead of them making the same mistakes and then having to go through the process as well.
It's all about paying it forward, is it not? And that's a concept we as Muslims live. We live this concept on a daily basis, paying it forward. In whatever form, whether it's zakah, lillah, fitra, whatever, just touching a person with kindness, even a smile, that is sadaqah in itself. Let's go back to the issue around mentors. You obviously are a mover and a shaker. You are a go-getter. You won't allow things to, life to pass you by. You're going to seize, that's the type of personality you are. You would seize every opportunity that comes by and make the most of it and make the best of it and grow from the challenge it presents to you. So you probably were in the right place at the right time. Maybe not. I'm just assuming this. You might have been in the right place at the right time. And Alhamdulillah, you met with the most amazing of mentors, as you have said. What about the middle of, our middle road is middle of the road kind of people? Maybe shy, maybe don't have the courage, maybe not confident enough. They need the guidance. How do they go about identifying a mentor and start growing themselves?
Yeah, perfect. I think I'm so glad that you mentioned that. I don't actually believe that you get individuals that are extremely intelligent and people that are not. I just feel like people it just determines on your ambition as well as on your persistence. So I'll share with you as well in terms of my own journey. Like, I wasn't someone who was in the right place at the right time. I made it the right place at the right time. So I went
Wow.
out of my way, just to be able to meet the right type of people. I mean, I was brought up in a small little town in the Northwest, I would make sure that I spend as many weekends as I could in Johannesburg. You know, I'd network with the right people. I'd force myself into rooms, into environments just to be able to learn new things. And I think that's exactly what it comes down to. It comes down to that hunger and that ambition as well. You know, it's very easy for someone to perhaps, you know, take it easy, you know, not necessarily be that ambitious, and then you will end up having more of a kind of a average kind of a mindset because of the fact that you're not, you know, growing yourself, you're not developing yourself. But it does take that route. But just moving away from the idea of that in particular and just looking at, you know, the idea of, I think it's so important that young people also understand that networking plays such an important role, right? So if, for example, your power of association is one of the things I emphasize the most when it comes to anything in life, is that if you want to be able to become successful, you have to surround yourself with successful people as well. If you want to, for example, become a doctor, it's always important for you to be able to spend some time at least you know, with people who are perhaps also studying to become doctors, but also to have a network of people around you that are also medical professionals. Because what comes with that practical experience, with those conversations, is that you literally take yourself one level higher than people who are just perhaps studying or just following the normal processes in life. So I really do believe in that. But also away from that, if we're looking at power of association, if you have 4 very successful people and you're the 5th person in that group, best believe you're also going to be able to get onto that level as everyone else, because their mindset elevates you. You know, it becomes contagious in that sense. You see someone working 20 hours a day and 4 of your friends are working 20 hours a day, best believe you're going to start having the same mindset as well. So I really think it's important that we build up the idea of networking in South Africa. We teach people the power of association in South Africa. But then there's so many other factors that I will mention to you as well. I mean, like the idea of being grateful, right? Like a lot of us take that for granted. Just every single opportunity that comes to us is an opportunity for us to be grateful. And we do understand, even in the Quran and through Islam, it teaches us that the more grateful you are, you know, more that comes to you as well. So I think that's such an important factor for us to understand.
Alhamdulillah. I want to come back to the whole issue around mentoring, the power of association. That's really very important as well, because if you hang out with the wrong people, you're not going to get far in life at all. You're probably going to end up doing all the wrong things in life and just jeopardizing all your future career, just jeopardizing your life as a whole. I also want to touch on critical thinking and how important that is regarding life choices that you make. But all of that and lots more coming up. Let's go for an ad break, inshallah. I am talking with Zareef Minty, and I'm going to repeat this throughout the program simply because I need you to know who this dynamic young man is that we're talking with this morning. He is Zareef Minty, attorney, entrepreneur, TV host, and author, just to mention a few. And we will be digging into those different aspects of his life as well, for him to share how he got there, what the journey was like, and that it is, in fact, possible for you too to achieve what this young man has achieved. This is the Mid-Morning Talk with me, Julie Alli. Going great. Are you enjoying it?
Gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Southern Africa Dawah Network is a non-profit organization striving to uplift the disadvantaged and empowering through education and dawah. Donate to the SADN centers, the M.A. Motala Islamic Center, as well as our Islamic centers in Amoti, Imtalumi, Botshabelo, and Castile. Donate your zakat and lillah today. Contact Farooq Sheikh 076-321-0650, Yusuf Mohammadi 072-259-3457, or the SADN head office 031 304 8000. Our account, Standard Bank, account number 050-856-294 for your zakat, or 050-879-790 for your lillah. Dawah through education, education through Dawah, the Southern Africa Dawah Network.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
Share the love this Eid by donating to the Eid Dream campaign with Penny Appeal South Africa. Join us for the 5th consecutive year of providing joy and happy faces for Eid by gifting an Eid box to an orphaned or vulnerable child. For just 400 Rand, you can be the reason they smile. Donate today, www.pennyappeal.org.za, or contact 063 293 8737 for more information. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
With so many investment options today, it's only natural that you might feel a little confused which route to take. Should I buy shares or should I invest in gold bullion? Randery Jewelers now brings you the Zahab coin, an alternative to the Kruger Rand. The Zahab coin, a solid wealth protector in its purest form of 24-karat gold, is the safest way to protect your wealth. So don't just sit there and watch your paper money depreciate. Change to gold. Call Randery Jewelers now at 031 202 4701 or visit www.rjcoin.co.za, situated at 151 Essenwood Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust. Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
It is exactly 11:25. We do have our guest standing by to talk with us, and that, of course, is Zareef Minty. He'll be with us till about 11:45, 11:45, around about that time, inshallah. And we're talking about motivation. We're talking about power of association. We're talking about really achieving your life goals. But Zareef has told us earlier on as well that, you can be as driven as you are. But nothing is possible without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and, your commitment to being a good human being and a good Muslim. Alhamdulillah for that. Zareef, welcome back.
Jazakallah, Auntie Juliet. I'm glad to be back.
All right. With everything you and I have been discussing thus far, lots of things popping into my head as you speak, and everything ties in so beautifully with what you say. You talk about the power of association, and I know earlier on I mentioned something about being in the right place at the right time. It doesn't always happen that way. If you're not in the right place at the right time, it does mean that you need to do a lot of hard work. You've got to be persuasive. You've got to show up. That's important, is it not? You've got to show up and make people take notice of you and make people realize that you are interested enough and you are committed to whatever the process is that you want to be involved in. Let's look at critical thinking and choices, because clearly if you don't apply critical thinking ideas and don't make the right choices, certainly you wouldn't have been in the position that you're in now. And it's an enviable position, alhamdulillah. I know very many youngsters that would like to be walking in your shoes, but you are giving back by all of the mentorship you're doing, by all of the amazing motivational content you're putting out, and we do know you are touching lives. So talk to us through all of that.
Perfect. I think I'll just start off with the critical thinking and choices as well. And I'll just, bring it back to even a university or school level, because, we do speak at a lot of schools, alhamdulillah, chatting to a lot of young people when it comes to just preparing them for university when they're in high school, also to a lot of primary school kids as they go through the process, but then also university kids. I think one of the biggest mistakes we make as young people, and I think I've always emphasized this, and it gets it's a bit controversial, but I think it makes a lot of sense, is that when we have this whole stigma behind even like subject choices, something as simple as subject choices, right? So when you look at like a student, for example, that wants to enter into university and get a good APS score, for example, a lot of them have so much of pressure when they're in high school that they feel that, there's this whole conversation that goes around that says that if someone does, for example, maths lit, then you're not on the same intellectual level as someone who does maths. Now, it does happen in a lot of schools. There's a lot of bullying that happens when it comes to stuff like that. But I don't even think it has anything to do with that. I think the most intelligent people are the ones who can sit down and differentiate and say, okay, look, I want to study a certain thing at university. Now, I don't need to do pure maths. Pure maths is not something that I require. It's not one of the requirements on my degree. So let me go and do, for example, maths lit. Let me get a 95 or a 90% average. It increases my APS score. And then therefore I get a better chance or a better opportunity to choose whichever university I want to go to. I can decide on whatever I want to study because, my marks are obviously good enough to get into any university. So it just becomes choices like that, even at a school level, that I think it's so important. We need to get rid of the stigma of what people put so much of pressure on young people. And we look at it on social media as well. You'll see a lot of young people feeling this pressure. They feel like they have to relate to everyone else. And unfortunately, on platforms like Instagram as well, even on TikTok, it's always about being flashy, more specifically Instagram. So we'll see a lot of pressure being put on young people. And unfortunately, that's one of the reasons why we also see things like, kid suicides. We see a lot of depression in our country and in the world. And stuff like that definitely needs to change, But moving away from schools and just looking at critical thinking as well, I think another conversation that we need to have is understanding the role of technology for young people, right? So a lot of people are so scared in South Africa. You'd have conversations with a lot of individuals, or even it tends to be a little bit older individuals. I wouldn't say necessarily the youngest people, but they have this fear of technology. They have this fear that technology is somehow just going to not necessarily replace them, but it's going to cause so much of harm in their lives. And I think that's the biggest mistake we make, especially as young people, is that we don't look at what's going to become important in South Africa, because we're actually very fortunate. We can watch countries like the US, we can watch Dubai, in the UAE, and we can see that for the next 3 to 6 months, this is something that's very prominent in the UAE. 6 months later, it will come to South Africa and it will boom, it will become massive. And a lot of people are scared of that. A lot of people don't look at trends that are happening in other countries. And I think that's a very important thing. Also looking at stuff like artificial intelligence, we're looking at things like ChatGPT, for example. These things have really changed the way in which people do things in the world. And if we're not going to be able to get our young people to create businesses and to create professions around new technology, we're going to start creating this whole long line of lawyers and doctors, and those things that were relevant. Yes, they're important. We do need them, but it's not to the level where every single young person, perhaps, and I'm generalizing here, that, that Indian person has to become an accountant or has to become a lawyer. Like, those days are gone. We need to teach young people about new trends in the world. We need to teach them about new professions in the world. We need to make sure that young people are going out and doing coding, for example. They're learning about artificial intelligence. And I think if we can emphasize good critical thinking in that sense, it will really change our unemployment rate in South Africa, but it will also open up so many opportunities for our young people as well.
So, Zareef, it is the Mubarak month of Ramadan. We are Muslim. We're talking about our youth, our future leaders of tomorrow. You're on the right path, alhamdulillah. You are influencing a lot of people, through your following and the work that you do. How do you believe we can inculcate and further, instill this love of deen into our young people, and for them not to go on emulating the West in every aspect of life? I'm not saying that the West is, emulating them is bad, but there are certain aspects that just doesn't fit in with our lifestyle as Muslims. And here's a brilliant opportunity when you talk artificial intelligence, when you talk, when I look at someone like you who has so very many followers, I kind of wonder, and there are very many other Muslim people like yourself in the country and all around the world that have massive following. What sort of impact ought we be making? What are the type of messages we ought putting out there regarding deen? regarding this Mubarak month of Ramadan, regarding Quran, because it's very, very important. You guys are influencers and you can make a huge impact.
Yeah, I think it's such an important question to ask as well, Anjali. I think just looking at the idea of, and I think it's as blunt as saying we have to just make, Islam and the religion attractive to young people. I think we have to make it trendy for young people. And I'm not saying remove any of the beauty of Islam or change the structure in any way. We just need to make people fall in love with Islam in the same way that,
Absolutely.
all these big, massive companies around the world spend millions and billions of rands and dollars every single month and year trying to make certain products attractive to us. We need to make Islam attractive to our young people. And it's such an easy thing to do because we're not selling a product or a service that's difficult. I mean, the religion itself is so beautiful, but it just comes down to scarcity. Now, when we're looking at a lot of the older generation, yeah, a lot of them are, very focused, Islam focused. Unfortunately, our young people, because of technology, because of social media, there is that con where a lot of them are now detracted away from Islam and away from the religion. So I think that's one of the things we have to spend time on, especially on social media, on all of these different platforms. I think it's important to show people that, because a lot of people tend to follow the norm. We live in a country, in a society, and in a world where people want to create certain agendas in the world, and they spend billions of dollars on it. But the idea is that we need to move away from those agendas if, for example, we need to look at good things. So we need to emphasize, and I try to do this myself every single day on my social media platforms, I'll always emphasize the fact that we have to stay kind, humble, and grateful. Because at the end of the day, those are a lot of the principles that come from Islam in particular. But away from that, also, we need to always emphasize that whenever you do achieve anything, it's not you achieving it, it's Allah giving you, it's Allah's will giving you the opportunity to achieve it in this world. And there's always reasons behind you getting that opportunity, So I think it just comes down to repetition on social media. I think if we see a lot more young people that do have following, that do have influence, to start emphasizing and building that structure around what is important and what's not important, I think that will make a difference. But I also think another issue we have in South Africa that you don't see in other countries, for example, in your Arab countries, in your Muslim countries around in the Middle East, there's a different culture, there's a different environment. In South Africa, we have this thing where a lot of our young people are actually pushed away from the mosques, and it's something that really does happen, and it's not done purposefully. It just happens because of stigma, because of issues. A lot of them don't find going to the mosque as part of their lifestyle, so we don't see it. We want to see young people. We hear it a lot on interviews in the UAE. People literally say that my second home is the mosque, and it's not that they just go there to pray. There's also lifestyle centers around it. You look
Absolutely.
at what happened, for example, in Midrand. In the Turkish mosque, for example, they have a restaurant outside the mosque. They also have different activities around the mosque. It makes it an environment where people get so comfortable and convenient being in that space. And then they want to spend more of their time in their space as well. Yes, of course, the most important thing is for them to use a mosque to pray. But I'm saying having things around the mosque to be able to build that environment, build that community among people. I think if we start doing that, we'll see a lot more of our youth spending more time in mosques as well. And therefore, the religion will also become more relevant to them and become more prominent to them. So I think those are just two of the solutions I would look at when it comes to growing Deen in South Africa in particular, especially for our
Alhamdulillah.
young people.
I can't agree with you more because, what you say is so right. Our mosque shouldn't be a place of just going 5 times a day, read your salah and then leave. Those structures, there's been a lot of resources put into building of those structures. Let's use it optimally. Let's create youth clubs there. Let's keep our young people off the streets. Let's grow them. Everything you spoke about here, you spoke about power of association, you spoke about mentorship. That can start at the mosques. After your Isha Salah, have a group coming together and have all of these talks, inspire the young people, bring Islam to them, bring technology to them in the mosques, and see how you can change and shift their mindsets. So I like what you're saying there, alhamdulillah, and hopefully South Africa will reach that point. I guess we're stuck in a certain mindset right now in just going to the mosque 5 times a day, if that, 5 times a day to read our salah. But slowly but surely, with young minds like yours, we'll start shifting our thinking and we'll start using our masajid exactly for the purposes they're meant to be. And they are community centers where you go there, where you interact, where you exchange ideas, where you grow the community, where you help young people grow themselves, etc., etc., etc. So much more to talk about, but we are running out of time. Let's talk to you about what does Ramadan mean to you and in your life. And I do know that you have a very busy schedule. You have a full-time job, plus late afternoon you've got to get yourself across to the TV station to get ready for your TV show. So what does Ramadan mean for you as a young Muslim?
Jazakallah, I think just looking at Ramadan for me, I think Ramadan for me is such an important time for my year. So I think I look at two different times as the most important times of my year. The one would be obviously the secular concept of the new year. So you sit down, you write all your goals for the year. It's 2023, next is 2024. So I emphasize, doing about 500 goals every single year. So I'll write down 500 of my goals that I want to achieve for the next year. And I'll do it from 2023 to 2024. The January the 1st is my date to look at everything I've done and obviously have my new goals for the next year. Then comes Ramadan, which is obviously the most important time for me. And it comes down to the importance of spirituality, right? So I think we get so lost throughout the year, where there's moments where we get pulled away from the important things in life, which is obviously religion, it's salah, it's praying. And it happens. Unfortunately, we are human beings. And I think that's also one thing I want to emphasize, though. That's why people like Mufti Meng, for example, become so relevant to young people and become so popular in the world, is because there's a missing middle that we're missing out on in South Africa and around the world, where we have your extreme liberals and then you get your very conservative, strict people. But there's a huge amount of people that are in between that want to do good. They want to become better Muslims, but they're not perfect. And no one is perfect, but they're not at the level of being extremely strict Muslims, And having someone like Mufti Meng come in and just share a lot of information that's relevant, but also spoken to on such a level where it becomes attractive for young people to listen to it, So I think for me, Ramadan is such a beautiful time. It's such a time for me to just find myself. I set spiritual goals for the year in the month of Ramadan. So I'll always sit down and, maybe do 50 goals spiritually and say for the next year, I want to, achieve X amount when it comes to praying and reading Quran, for example, or whatever it is. And all of that just becomes part of my self-development tool. So for me, Ramadan is a beautiful time. It's also a time for community. It's a time for family. I mean, my family live in the Northwest Province. My mom and dad both live in Klerksdorp. It's a small little city. So I hardly see them. You see them on weekends sometimes, but during the month of Ramadan, alhamdulillah, it's such a beautiful time because I get to spend more time with my parents. I get to see family. I get to see people that I hardly see throughout the year. I get to see them during the month of Ramadan. And what I also like about this year in particular, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, is that I can now see how other people are living Ramadan through the TV show as well. We're also seeing things develop in South Africa where perhaps before in the UAE, people go for Taraweeh. After Taraweeh, they don't sleep until Sehri in the next morning. They're sitting with family. They're at a restaurant out somewhere. It's this beautiful, decent way of spending the night where, they're just with family. They're having conversation. And all of those beautiful moments happen. In South Africa, we never used to see that before, Now we're starting to see things like, for example, pedal tournaments happening in the evening.
Yes.
We're seeing communities staying up as well. We're seeing restaurants also staying open from Taraweeh until Sehri as well. So we're seeing things like this happen. And it's growing our community. It's growing, the love for Islam as well, because now people are spending more time doing things in a decent manner, but together as a community. And I think that's so beautiful.
Alhamdulillah. So you are seeing the shift with young people because you can have fun and still be a good Muslim, if that's the right terminology to be using. You can be truly a good Muslim, observing all of the requirements of a Muslim youth, and you can still have fun, good, clean fun. And you saying to me, you are beginning to see the shift. We know it's happening in the UAE, but are you seeing it beginning to happen here in South Africa?
Everywhere. I'm starting to see it in Cape Town. I'm starting to see it in Johannesburg. They just had a tournament now in the starting of Ramadan. It's called a pedal tournament that's happening in Killarney, which is in Johannesburg. And that's one of many tournaments. I just want to emphasize that all around South Africa. And they all got onto this, concept of having pedal tournaments because, like I said, firstly, it's beautiful for so many different reasons. Number one is it keeps people active. I'm looking at the basic stuff before we get to the important stuff. It keeps people active. It keeps people, social as well. They can at least,
Connected.
get those social needs done with. But away from that, also, it's a beautiful occasion to build community, because it always happens within
Absolutely.
communities. So, for example, the Kilani community will include Houghton, will include Sandton, will include all the surrounding areas around there. People come together. They become open up new friendships. There's a whole lot of growth in terms of connecting together. It's the month of Ramadan, so people are also coming together to talk about, and it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. I've actually sat with them last week Friday, and there was a group of guys sitting together, and I'm sure their normal conversations would be around cars, would be around houses. It happens, because that's what you'd speak
Yes,
about outside of Ramadan. There's
absolutely.
nothing wrong with that. But what they
Sure.
were speaking about during those 5 or 10 minutes that I was sitting with them, they were actually speaking about, there's a certain house, orphanage that they like, and the one guy says
Wow.
he goes there all the time. All 4 of the other guys wanted to now get involved and contribute, and they wanted to do it
Mashallah.
together as a group. So power of association makes the biggest difference, and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
if you can put people in good environments and allow them to have power of association, magic happens. And I really do believe that. So even looking at, for example, myself, I mean, I don't have kids right now. I'm not married. But when I am married, alhamdulillah, and inshallah, and when I do have kids, I want my children to be able to find friends in a mosque and not out somewhere else. I want my kids to be able to find friends playing paddle for a good cause, for example, for a charity
Inshallah.
initiative, because the like-mindedness of what they meet on the day is going to be able to make it a lot easier for me to parent them than them finding friends elsewhere. So it just comes down to that idea as well.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more. I do know that unfortunately we're running out of time, but I do need to touch on this. I know you're going to be there, the Mini Expo 2023, Living with Allah Now. Tell us more about it.
Perfect. So I'm actually invited as a speaker on the day. And I do know that there's going to be a lot of incredible speakers on the day. I mean, I know that, the Mia guy is also going to come to. I just want to get his name as well. Riza Mia is going to be there. He's going to talk a lot about, specific aspects about religion and life. But we're also going to have a lot of amazing motivational speakers that are going to be coming in. It's also a day for allowing SMMEs to grow. There's also going to be vendors on the day where people can actually sell some of their products. In South Africa, that's one of the things I love the most, is that we create all of these pop-ups all around South Africa. There's always pop-ups happening every single weekend, and it happened a lot before Ramadan, and it happens throughout the year. But it gives and it allows for entrepreneurship to thrive in South Africa. We're seeing small businesses, people who didn't necessarily have a second income. Maybe they have a corporate job, maybe they have a certain employment. Now they're starting to understand the concept of diversification of income. And now we're starting to see that, because we're allowing people to be able to open up or tap into that entrepreneurial mindset that they have. So now we're seeing pop-ups, we're seeing those opportunities. So that is going to be on the day. There's going to be vendors there. There's going to be motivational speakers. There's also going to be high-profile celebrities and personalities in South Africa. But the most important aim for the whole event is to be able to create that link between commerce, between influence, between media, and just showing people the connection between that and everything coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the importance of religion when it comes to anything that you do in your life. Because at the end of the day, and I always emphasize this, that no matter what you do, no matter who you meet, no matter what you become, everything comes from the will of Allah, alhamdulillah. And that's the one thing that we have to understand as people. And, that's something that I think I'm so glad to be part of, because the whole emphasis is on creating that connection as well.
Ameen, Ameen, Thumma Ameen. All right, tell us where and when is it going to be happening?
So I believe it is going to be happening this weekend. It is going to be happening in Observatory. I will definitely make sure that I share as many contact details as I can, and also more information about it on my social media platform. But what you can also do is just visit their Instagram account in particular, and they'll be able to share all of the information throughout the weekend. We know it is also quite a festive weekend for everyone else in South Africa. So just also, guys, whoever is planning on coming through, please just be safe on the roads as well. And inshallah, have the best time at the event. And I think the most important thing, again, is for us just to acknowledge the fact that we are blessed to have these, different workshops, these different expos, because in other countries, people don't get the opportunity to build up their mindset. They don't get the opportunity to learn and gain new knowledge, or to be able to socialize and meet people. And there's some countries out there that don't have those benefits. So it's important for us to look at South Africa, look at our country, look at our people, and be very grateful for the opportunities that we do have.
And once again, an opportunity to network, because networking is what it's all about, isn't it? Networking and power of association. That will always stick with me. In closing, Zareef, what would you like to leave our viewers and listeners with this morning in this Mubarak month of Ramadan?
Alhamdulillah, I think I just want to let every single one of you guys know and wish you guys all the best during this blessed month of Ramadan. Alhamdulillah, we're coming towards the closing 15 days of Ramadan. And, it's a perfect time for us to just reflect on, the next year ahead, inshallah. Also just reflect on our plans when it comes to becoming more spiritual and to get more closer to Deen, inshallah. But away from that, I just want to talk to all of the young people and a lot of your ambitious South African people. I want you to understand that you are going to get 1,000 no's before you get one yes. And that one yes will be beneficial to you. That one yes is going to actually change your life. But don't forget that the 1,000 no's is what's going to develop you to be able to get that one yes. So it's very important for you to respect those no's, actually celebrate the no's, because you are going to develop yourself. As long as you take those no's in a constructive way, you will become successful. I just want you guys to know that you must be persistent, be consistent. At the end of the day, the most important thing is for you to just be ambitious and hardworking, but also work smart at the same time. And lastly, I think the most important thing is for you to be humble. Alhamdulillah, we have the opportunity to be able to become something in this world and to grow ourselves. But nothing comes without the will of Allah. And it all comes with being humble and being grateful, because the more grateful you are, the more opportunities come your way. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, you can't undermine the power of gratitude, can you? And what you said about the young people, the 1,000 no's and eventually the one yes, I think that is absolutely awesome. Don't let that dampen your spirit. Just keep pushing and keep trying. Very quickly, you spoke about your goals. You set goals every year. And I nearly fell off my chair when you said this. You said you set 500 goals at the beginning of the year. Do you achieve them? Or is just something that kind of motivates you? Do you tell yourself, these are 500 goals that I've set, but if I receive 10, if I achieve 10%, I'll be happy. Is that how you go about it? Or do you in fact achieve all 500?
So just touching on that, so I've attended Robert Kiyosaki events when I was very young. Robert Kiyosaki is the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he actually came up with the concept of goal setting, So I think I started going to seminars at the age of 11. From 11, I started taking these diaries that you get at, your CNAs and exclusive books. And it has like the year on the top of it. It's very simple, very plain diaries. But at the back of it, it has like 3 or 4 empty pages where it's just lines. I'd fill up those since the age of 11 and put my 500 goals for the year. And I'll do that since the age of 11. I mean, I'm 29 now. So it's about 18 years of doing this, alhamdulillah. But it's the best thing that ever happens, because it's also a mindset thing, right? And I just want to emphasize it to a lot of young people who want to do this as well, is that if you can quantify your goals, and if you can analyze how you're going to achieve your goals, they become a lot easier to achieve. If it's just something that's in your mind, but you haven't written it down, it becomes at least 5 to 10 times more difficult to achieve those goals. So I think it's important for us to, write down our goals, but also create. And how I've done that is such a way where there's like midterm goals, or there's small goals, medium goals, and large goals. So some of the small goals lead to the medium goals and lead to the large goals. But at the end of the day, in my mind, if I can achieve anything between 85 to 90% of my 500 goals every single year, then I'd look at the year as being successful. Because obviously we're not perfect. We can't achieve every single thing that we want. And we don't want to put that pressure on young people. But if you can go and achieve at least 80 to 90% of the stuff that you want to achieve, you are beyond amazing in South Africa or even around the world, because most people, just aim for average, and average would be 30, 40, 50%. So if you can try to achieve 80 to 90% of it, then you are going to be, that step ahead in your own goal setting. But I think one thing I also want to just emphasize in closing is that you're not competing with anyone else. Hey, you're never competing with anyone else.
Yourself.
You're just competing with yourself. So you want to be better than Zareef 2022. Zareef 2023 has to be a lot better than Zareef 2022. We wish everyone well, alhamdulillah. Remember, every single person that's around you is part of your journey. They can actually teach you something. You can learn from them. You must never look down at anyone. You must never think you're better than anyone. And I think that's the one lesson I've learned from a lot of my mentors as well, is that when you are humble and you're grateful and you respect and appreciate every single person in the world, so many blessings come your way, alhamdulillah.
I like that very much. I like your closing remark, because we don't necessarily always learn from the rich and the powerful and the famous, because that ordinary Joe soap can teach you so much. You can learn so very many lessons from him. Most importantly, something that you've talked about throughout the interview this morning is the power of gratitude. Old ordinary Joe soap is going to teach you that, because when you look at him, when you interact with him, you're going to realize just how much of blessings are in your life. So alhamdulillah for that. Zareef, I could sit here talking to you for the entire day. We haven't even touched on your books, your future ambitions, and so much more. But inshallah, we will get together again and have another long conversation. Keep us in your du'as. 15 more days to go, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide and bless you continuously. And inshallah, have a blessed remainder of this Mubarak month of Ramadan. Very, very wonderful having chatted with you on the show this morning.
Jazakallah so much, and I wish the same for you and all of your listeners as well. Inshallah, we all achieve all of our goals during this month of Ramadan, and inshallah, we achieve all of our goals towards the next year, and we also just become better people, become more happier, and at the end of the day, we can all just be more grateful and more loving towards our family and our friends as well. Jazakallah so much.
Ameen, thumma ameen. Salaam alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum assalam.
That was the dynamic Zareef Minty. He is an attorney, entrepreneur, TV host, and author, just to mention a few. A truly, truly go-getter, dynamic young man. And alhamdulillah, really words of wisdom coming from someone as young as him. I thoroughly enjoyed speaking with him this morning. And undoubtedly, I'm sure you've enjoyed it as well. Remember that he is on Instagram at I am Zareef Minty. He has over 22,000 followers, and he shares daily motivational content and entrepreneurship tips to help the young people, not only in our country, but all around the world. What an amazing man. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him, accept all of his efforts, and let our other young people start really emulating him in any way they possibly can. The time is exactly 11:54. This is the Mid-Morning Talk with me, Julie Alli. Next, we'll be talking with Rubina Gur. She is a student of the Holy Quran. She was with us on last week's show talking about the translation of the Holy Quran by Sheikh Tanner. She was also involved in that initiative. And the difference of that Quran is that it was translated and put into chronological order. This time around, we're going to be talking about instilling the love of Allah into our children. So please do stand by for that interview.